What's going on, guys? It's Fat Boy, and today we are tier listing all of the weapons of Chapter 4, Season 3, Wild. And what I'm going to do with these is I'm going to try to make a pretty even, try to go for a bell curve, try to make it the most fair, not just put everything in A or F or anything like that. And so starting off with the Havoc Assault Rifle, I think it's going to probably go in D tier. I honestly don't really use this that much this season. All the other assault rifles are better in my opinion. And so it's just going to go D tier. For example, the MK Alpha. I feel like this is a pretty good gun. I'd give it a solid B tier. It's useful. It's not like crazy overpowered like the MK7 was, but it's really good. The drum shotgun. I mean, and I don't take the shotgun that often, but I feel like it's the one I take the least probably. But I think it's D tier, but higher than the Havoc. Next up, we have the Maven. The Maven is a really solid shotgun. It's basically the TAC, but for Chapter 4, and so I think I'm going to probably give it a solid C tier, the first C tier on the list, because it's not something I grab all the time. I prefer the Havoc Pump. And this brings us to the Breacher exotic, which is essentially the heavy shotgun. And I really don't like this gun. Not because it's a terrible gun, but because I'm so bad at using this specific type of shotgun where it needs hyper accuracy that for that reason it's going to be the first F, and that it can one shot builds, so it could be up here, the lowest in D, but to keep a proper curve, we're gonna probably keep it at the bottom for now. And next up we have the Heisted Accelerant Shotgun, which is like the Maven shotgun, but just better. So it's just gonna be better than that because every time you get in a limb, it reloads and shoots faster, which is just awesome. But mainly in creative settings, so it's not really as good in the Battle Royale. So it's probably actually gonna go just below for BR. Next up, we have the Havoc Pump, and this is one of those that I take like pretty much 100% of the time. So it being my preferred weapon of the category is going to be the first A tier. It's just really solid weapon all around. Next up is the new Shark Tooth shotgun, and this one was just recently added. It's basically like a really long range shotgun. I find it's pretty fun. I enjoy using it. So it's kind of works kind of like a pump, but a little longer range, less damage. So I'm gonna put it in B tier, right next to the MK. Next up, we go to SMGs, and we have the Combat SMG, which is my favorite of the category, but it's not as good as the pump for me. So it's going to go up here, high B tier for now, because it can't quite get to that level. Next, we have the traditional submachine gun, and it's okay, but it's not anything special, so it's just going to go, it's pretty average. It's going to go bottom of C tier. Combat is just like better in like almost every way. So next up we have the run and gun submachine gun. This thing is an absolute beast, and it deserves an A tier for that. It's so good. It's the highest in A tier because it gives you infinite sprint the entire time you're holding the gun and is a P90, which there's no other way to get a P90 in the game. Next up, we have the Shadow Tracker, which they made a little more common this season. Shadow Tracker used to be my favorite exotic, and I do typically like silenced pistols, but this season it just hasn't been the play for me. It's not been something I've been using a ton. And usually, if you get like Tracker's Armory Augment, it's just not really like you'd rather take the flare gun rather than the pistol here because you could have like a combat SMG or the exotic up here. So for that reason, it's just not the best thing we could get. So I'm gonna put it. I think it's gonna go in C tier, very bottom. It's not quite no. Drum shotgun is used more, I would say. So it's gonna go D tier, which is pretty bad. But anything subject to be moved at the end. Next up, we have the tactical pistol, and this is a pretty okay gun. The mythic variant is not much different, and so I think we're gonna just put this one straight up. It's just like you could replace an SMG with this, I guess. It's okay. I think it's gonna go in front of this, and drone shotgun's gonna move up to C. Yeah. Next up, we have the thermal DMR. Now, I personally really like this weapon. Being able to just thermal scope and quickly see any enemy. It's really, really useful, especially because of cloak gauntlets, which are a very annoying item. if you do not have a thermal or a flare of some kind. And so I'd say this is probably one of the higher tier weapons. For me, it is above the MK Alpha. I use it more regularly, but it's not the weapon I use the most. So I wouldn't say it's probably in the middle. It's probably right about here, like above these two, because well, actually, it's kind of in the middle of these. I don't really use this one as much as I use this MK. So I guess it's kind of like this. Yeah, it's above the MK and the sharp tooth. Yeah, sharp tooth, because it's just very good at scoping, very useful all around. And now it's into some of the other fun weapons here. We have the flare gun with limited uses per. I still think it is a very, very solid, like, grab it off spawn, or like even just a mid game grab, use it for a utility slot. So I use this one quite frequently, so it's probably going to be all the way up here, like high B tier, which things are getting a little out of, curve, but I will reorganize in a second, because next up we have Firefly Jars, and this is like, I never use these, like, I said these more than the Breacher, but no, extra wild wasp jars. I haven't really messed with this a whole bunch. I know they exist. They're about the same as fireflies though, maybe just a little more annoying. So I think I'm gonna put right with fireflies, but it's not anything crazy. I mean, yeah. Next we have the best weapon in the entire game, the explosive repeater rifle. This thing is like, I wish there was another tier for it alone, because it's my favorite weapon. I have so many wins entirely because of this gun existing, because it can deal damage to an area, it can do massive damage to the headshot because it's a heavy ammo. There's an augment that makes this thing even more powerful with increased heavy headshot damage and heavy acquired. And overall, it's a very easy gun to use because it has a really good magazine size and fire rate, which means you can just take someone down completely behind cover without even needing to do anything. Best weapon by far. Followed by like the worst thing you could use, which is a gas can. Like, there's a couple other things in here, like grenades. Yeah, those are gonna be. Do I use these more or less at fireflies? This is looking rough. I'd say probably more than fireflies. No, fireflies are more useful. So it's gonna be like, yeah, I will pretty much never take this shotgun unless I have to, just because I'm that bad with it. But still, gas cannon's worse. Next, we have the Cybertron Cannon. The Cybertron Cannon is a new mythic. It's basically an RPG, but a little bit nerfed in a couple ways, and a little bit buffed in a few. It has a faster travel through the air time, but has a charge up time that takes a while. So it's harder to dodge once it's already shot, but if you see someone charging it up, you can just, like, attack them before they can fire. So I'm gonna say I don't honestly take this almost ever. So it's sadly gonna be pretty low for me in like mid D tier. And the rest of these are all just the mythic variants of these. But if I were to throw them on this list, wait a second, the flapjack rifle wasn't on here. Okay, well, the flapjack rifle is one of the other assault rifles in here, and it is really, really good. Most of the time, if you can land shots, like early season, there's, you can see clips with like Nick A30 just using like 4 of these and taking out anyone's wall. It's a very good gun. It's kind of like the drum gun, but not as powerful. So it's more balanced drum gun. So for that reason, I think I'm going to put it, it's one of the weapons that I take. I could almost switch out an SMG for because the fire rate's so good. So I think it's going to be pretty solidly in C tier. Like, it's not, well, it's better than these other assault rifles. So I think for reorganizing this, then we're going to have to take it like this. Yeah, it's pretty much like this right now. This is our current perfect curve, and we have 4 more mythics we can throw on here. Basically, it's just tac pistol, but slightly better. Then we have Havoc assault rifle, but like slightly better. Then we have the MK assault rifle, but like slightly better. And then we have the drum gun, but like slightly better. And somehow that kept our curve the exact same. So I think, yeah, this is fairly accurate on my thoughts towards this. If they had cloak gauntlets, it would be right next to the explosive repeater rifle for me, because cloak gauntlets, the best utility item of the season. Like, if the enemy is not using a flare gun or or pretty much a flare gun, the thermal scope, or the shadow tracker, then you win. There's like no stopping you whatsoever.